Hey everybody, welcome to ARE Live. I'm Patrick Finnegan, producer of ARE Live here at Black Spectacles, and I'm joined with architect Chris Hopstock, who's going to review several practice management mock exam questions. We're going to go through questions that cover PCM knowledge and skills related to demonstrating firm qualifications in response to RFPs, structuring fees based on risk and services, navigating copyright and ownership of design documents, identifying appropriate additional services for scheduling issues, and managing reuse and licensing of construction documents. If you're joining us for the first time, Black Spectacles is a leader in ARE prep. We work with learning scientists and architects to ensure you're studying the right content and that you retain it so you can pass on the first try. We've built everything you need to pass the exams, including new video lectures with motion graphics and 3D animation, practice exams that are as close to the real thing as you can get, and unlike anyone else, with our Pass the ARE guarantee, in the unlikely event that you don't pass your exams, we'll pay for you to retake the exam. You'll also receive access to our deck of flashcards, which you can customize, and quizzes after each video lecture section, including detailed content on the hardest parts of the exams. Lastly, our guided study process organizes all of your study material into a daily study plan, showing you what to study each day that you can customize to align with your exam date. And all of this is built upon a curriculum that ensures you're learning the right content, and they all work together with our custom-built platform to ensure that you retain the information so you remember it for the exams. With our ARE prep, our pass rates are 40% higher than the national average, and our members report passing in half the time of the national average. And we're excited to announce the launch of our brand new CSE course designed to help you pass the California Supplemental Exam in record time. In this course, you'll get everything you need to pass the CSE on your first try, including an expert-crafted California-specific study materials, a practice exam that is as close to the real thing as you can get, customizable flashcards and quizzes, and a structured study plan customized to your exam date. And you can join today at blackspectacles.com/CSE-pricing to take advantage of a 30% discount for Black Friday month. And this offer ends on November 30th. And if you're using Black Spectacles through your firm, be sure to let your firm leadership know so they can unlock access for your entire team. Over on our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook social channels, we post mock exam questions daily. So if you don't already follow us, I suggest that you do. We're at black.spectacles on Instagram and TikTok, and just Black Spectacles on Facebook. And our next ARE Live will be on December 17th, where we'll be covering a PPD mock exam. You can go to blackspectacles.com/podcast to sign up, and you'll receive an email with a link to sign up for that right after the session. And we offer a referral program for firms and schools, where if you introduce us to your boss or HR, and if they sign up, we'll send you a $250 gift card of your choice. To participate, follow the instructions on blackspectacles.com/group-referral. And we also offer a Refer a Friend program where you can sign up to receive a customized discount code to save your friend 15% off any membership, and they'll receive a $50 gift card of their choice when they redeem. You can go to blackspectacles.com/referral to participate. And we'll be engaging exclusively on our online Black Spectacles community. So you can head over to community.blackspectacles.com, and right at the top, you'll see we've pinned a thread called ARE Live PCM Mock Exam November 2025. If you have a question while we're going through ARE Live today, post your questions there and we'll answer them live during the session. And everyone who posts in that thread today will be eligible to win a free Black Spectacles t-shirt. Literally all you have to do is go over to community.blackspectacles.com and say hi, and you're registered. And of course, don't forget to stay tuned until the end of the episode to see if you've won. So with that, I'd like to welcome today's guest, Chris Hopstock. In addition to working with us here at Black Spectacles, Chris is an architect based in New York. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for that intro, Patrick. I'm excited to be here talking about practice management. So I think when people think about the PCM division of the ARE, they're mostly probably thinking about firm financial questions and questions about what type of insurance should I have as a firm owner, what type of firm legal structure should I think about. But I think you're also going to run into a good amount of questions that are asking you to make value-based decisions about a variety of topics that and how to respond to these various requests that you're going to get from your clients or from potential clients while keeping in mind legal, ethical, and professional considerations that we always have to have in our mind. So today I want to go over some of those types of questions that are about making good decisions as a firm owner and that you're going to run into on the practice management exam. So with that, let's take a look at question number 1. The principal of a 6-person firm is responding to an RFP for a new high school gymnasium and sports field addition. The high school is a locally designated landmark, and the addition will include an extension onto the rear of the building, as well as a new field house. The school district emphasized in their RFP materials that the budget is tight and that the duration allotted for the project's design is 8 months. Which of the following should the principal highlight in their RFP response? Check the 3 that apply. A, staff resumes demonstrating experience on educational projects. B, the staff's extensive experience on historic renovation projects. C, a preliminary rendering of the firm's vision for the project. D, a guarantee that the construction cost will not exceed the client's budget. E, recently completed athletic facility projects. And F, a proposed 5-month design schedule. So this question, we're responding to an RFP, which is a request for proposals. And the thing that we want to think about when responding to an RFP and hopefully trying to get awarded the job is we want to show how our firm is a great fit for the project. We want to put our best foot forward. Similar to what you would do if you were applying for a job. You might tailor your resume or your cover letter to the specific firm that you're applying to, right? So when you prepare an RFP response, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to present your firm in a certain light based on the project that is in front of you. So with that said, let's take a look at these 6 choices, do some process of elimination, and we're looking for 3 correct answers here. So A, staff resumes demonstrating experience on educational projects. This is a great thing to include in an RFP response. You want to show that not only is your firm capable, but the firm is made up of staff members, right? The firm can only be as good as the people that work there. So you want to demonstrate that not only has the firm done great work like this on the past, but the specific people that you're thinking about staffing this project with have the experience as well. So we're not going to need to bring them up to speed on your project. These people have the experience that you're looking for. So since this is an educational project, it's a new high school gymnasium, we definitely want to be highlighting our staff's experience on those types of projects. Choice B, the firm's extensive experience on historic renovation projects. I think that would be a good thing to include in an RFP response as well. This is an addition to a historic building, so it's not exactly a historic renovation, but with any sort of addition, you're going to be touching some of the existing building, right? We're going to have some sort of entrance from the existing school to the new gymnasium addition. So showcasing that your firm has worked on historic buildings in the past, you understand what comes along with that, is probably something that whoever's reviewing this RFP proposal and comparing it with other firms that are competing for the same job, it'll put your best foot forward that you've done those types of projects before, right? Choice C, a preliminary rendering of the firm's vision for the project. This might seem like a good idea, and we're architects. We want to get into the design of a project. We probably read the project brief and are excited by it. Maybe want to get some of our ideas on paper, but it's important not to sort of get ahead of ourselves when we're applying to an RFP. Unless it's specifically asked for, if it's more of a design competition type of a thing, then we would obviously want to show what our vision is for the project. But for a typical RFP, unless that's mentioned, you're really just explaining why your firm is a good fit for the project. You would give a fee proposal as well. You would give your proposed design schedule, but you wouldn't start designing the project yet. You also want to give, if you're awarded the project, you want to work with the client, get their program, get their understanding. You're probably going to have a million questions to ask them before you start designing, so you can gather information. So if you just start doing that before you've gone through that whole process, it could really limit your design process, right? So could seem like a good idea, but probably not something we want to include unless this is a design competition. So I would stray away from choice C. Choice D, a guarantee that the construction cost will not exceed the client's budget. So I would say there's probably not any answer choice on the ARE that uses the word guarantee that I'm going to think is a correct answer. Guarantee, promise, words like that, these concrete words are a bad idea that you want to stray away from. So what can go wrong here if you give a guarantee that the construction cost won't exceed the client's budget? Well, what happens if it does? What happens if through no fault of your own, maybe there's material costs just go up, maybe there's inflation. If you've guaranteed the construction cost, people are going to be looking at you and your your pocket realistically to sort of make that situation right. So we don't want to be guaranteeing, we don't really want to be guaranteeing any outcomes, but specifically not the construction cost and what that's going to be. When we get into the design process, we'll do cost of work estimates for the client at various points. That's an estimate, that's not a guarantee, and that's clearly spelled out in our contract. So to put that shortly, anytime you see the word guarantee, I would probably not choose that answer. Moving on to choice E, recently completed athletic facility projects. That seems like a great option here. We're going to be hopefully designing an athletic facility, a gymnasium and a sports field for this client. So we want to show them some hopefully gymnasium style projects that we've recently completed to show them that we can do this type of a project. We've done it. We have a track record. So I would say E is a great choice there. And then, so we've got our 3 correct answers, but just to round this out, choice F, a proposed 5-month design schedule. This, I would probably not choose this. The question says that the client is looking for an 8-month design schedule. It could be tempting to say that we're going to do it in, just about half of the time. So that's why you should choose us. We're really fast, but this comes back to sort of what we talked about with choice D here, and a guarantee of the construction cost. We don't want to overpromise something and then maybe end up under delivering, right? I think if the client is looking for an 8-month design schedule, that's already kind of a short design schedule for a project of this magnitude. Saying that we can do it in 5 is maybe setting ourselves up to disappoint the client if we can't deliver on that. So with that said, I think our solid correct choices here are choices A, staff resumes showing our experience on educational project, B, firms got a lot of experience on historic renovation projects, and E, we've recently completed a bunch of athletic facility projects, and here are some great images of them.
Looking over in our community right now, see if we have any questions. Looks like we have one from Dave. If you have any questions while we're going through this today, you can go to community.blackspectacles.com. We have a thread pinned right at the top called AREE Live PcM Mock Exam 2020, November 2025. And you can drop your questions there and I'll bring them up to Chris. But this first one is kind of just about different divisions, but how can one prepare for questions that seem meant for other divisions? Those topics aren't among the recommended study materials for PcM.
That's a great question. Actually, I believe question 4 in today's presentation probably could be a project management question, right? That happens a lot. You're going to see that. There's overlap between the divisions on the ARE today. I think we do a fantastic job of covering all of the material that you might need to know for each specific division, which means that our material for practice management has overlap built into it with our material for project management. But that's just a reality of the exam, right? There's not a clear line between what it means to manage a project and what it means to manage a firm. And there's not really a clear line between what it means for the PA division and coming up with a preliminary design there versus what it means to get started in the schematic design phase when you get to PPD. Like there's just not clear lines in some of these things. So it's just how the exams are structured for the ARE 5.0. And I think you've got to recognize that that's part of the challenge and be ready for it. So when we get to question 4, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think you've got to understand what the overlaps are and be ready, and that's the best way to go about it. Okay, an architect is preparing a fee proposal for a private developer client to design a new 20-unit residential project on an urban infill lot. The architect took the following notes during their call with the potential client. Height variance required from the planning board, fast track with construction manager as constructor, and 24-month construction schedule. Which of the following should the architect consider when preparing their fee proposal? Check the 2 that apply. A, an hourly rate for work during the entitlement process. B, a fixed fee for the entire scope of work. C, guaranteeing successful variance request. D, charging a premium due to increased liability. E, an hourly rate for construction contract administration. And F, excluding construction contract administration. So looking at these answer choices here, a skill that you can develop as you practice just answering questions like this is realizing that a couple of these choices are sort of grouped together. If you look at choice A, which says hourly rate for the entitlement process and choice B, a fixed fee for the entire scope of work, those choices are sort of opposite of each other. You can't choose both of them. They contradict each other. Same thing with choices E and F, hourly rate for construction contract administration or excluding that phase of the project. So you can't choose both of those. So if you can start recognizing these sort of patterns, and they happen a lot on check all that apply questions, where you'll have two opposing thoughts in two separate answer choices. And if you break it down like that, you can kind of break a question like this down into a series of sort of true or false statements and get to your answer that way. So with that, let's take a look at some of these answer choices. So A, an hourly rate for work during the entitlement process. Well, what is the entitlement process? That's not even included in the question here. So you need to know some vocabulary. The entitlement process is the legal or governmental approval process. So it could mean something like getting a variance approved. It could mean getting a subdivision approved, some sort of planning board approval. But it's basically getting all of the approvals that you need to say that this project is allowed to be put in this location, right? So for our project here, the entitlement process that's mentioned in the notes that our architect took is the height variance required from the planning board. So with that knowledge, we can evaluate this choice now. The choice is suggesting that we want to charge an hourly rate for work during the entitlement process. And I think that's always a good idea. It's very hard to, so if you're not going to use an hourly rate, you're going to do some sort of a fixed fee, right? When you determine a fixed fee, you kind of need to know how long that process is going to take you so you can determine how much you should charge in total. Well, a task like getting variance documents put together, attending board meetings and explaining the project to the board, and then any potential revisions that are required is really hard to estimate how long that's going to take. You don't know if you're going to attend one meeting with this board and it'll be approved or denied right then. You don't know if you'll have to come back to successive meetings. So charging an hourly rate for this type of sort of undefined scope of work is a good idea. I think that choice makes a lot of sense. So if I'm choosing A here, I can eliminate choice B, the fixed fee for the entire scope of work, because I think that at least this part of the scope of work really warrants an hourly rate. So with that, I think A is correct, B is incorrect. Let's take a look at the next choice, choice C. So guaranteeing a successful variance request. There's the word guarantee again. Let's just stay away from this choice. Maybe it seems like a slam dunk. It seems like it's definitely going to get approved. Maybe we've worked on tons of these before and they always get approved in these exact circumstances, but you don't want to guarantee anything. You don't want to promise anything. And there could be something that's different about this that maybe you don't know about that is going to lead to it not being approved or not being approved the way you thought it would. So avoid the guarantee, and let's say choice C is incorrect. Charging a premium due to increased liability, choice D. So reading this choice and wondering if it's correct, you have to look at the question and say, is there any increased liability on this project when compared with just a standard project, right? So the words that I see here that make me think there's some increased risk are fast track with a construction manager as constructor, not so much the CMC part, the construction manager part, but fast track. When I see that word, I think increased liability for the architect. So fast track means I'm going to complete my documents in phases. Construction is going on while I'm finishing my documents, and I'm working closely with the CMC to figure out what I need to design next. It's a good way to accelerate their construction schedule. With that, some things can be missed, right? You're not just designing the project during the design phase. You have to really take into account what's going on with the construction schedule. You need to design in sort of a certain way and use a different methodology when you're designing, and that can lead to some oversights. So I think charging a premium for any project where there's going to be a fast track project delivery approach is a good idea, and I would probably choose that as a correct answer. So that's two correct answers, but let's look at E and F quickly. So an hourly rate for a construction contract administration or excluding that phase altogether. This question says that we're looking at a 24-month construction schedule. I don't think you need to charge hourly for construction contract administration. I would put a fixed fee on that scope of work. I think if you've done a number of projects, if you've completed them and you know how much time you put into construction contract administration per month, you can just apply that to this 24-month construction schedule and note that in your contract that if it's going to go over 24 months, then you're going to charge some extra, right? So I guess my takeaway here is that we really shouldn't be charging an hourly rate for something. Clients don't really like it unless we have a really specific reason to do so, such as the scope of work is unclear. For contract administration on this project, scope of work seems pretty clear, and I think we could put a fixed fee on that. And then F, excluding that scope of work altogether is never going to be a good idea. You want to be involved in the construction contract administration process so that you can be helpful to the whole design team and answer questions about your design, review submittals, and help the owner keep them apprised on what's going on the construction site. So with that said, I think A and D are the correct answers here. Hourly rate for the entitlement process and charging a premium due to that increased liability from the fast track delivery approach. Yeah, if there's no
Not look
question.
like I'm seeing any questions in our community, but if you have any questions, you can go to community.blackspectacles.com, and we have a thread there called ARI Live PCM Mock Exam November 2025, and you can click reply in that, and I'll see your question. I'll bring it up to Chris. But with that, let's go ahead and go to question number 3.
Sounds good. Question 3, an architect is asked by a potential new client to design a new home for a lot that they recently purchased. The potential client sends over a floor plan that they purchased online, as well as some markups of the revisions that they'd like to make to the plan, including a small addition. The client is anxious to get the project submitted to the local AHJ so that the foundation can be poured before the winter. How should the architect proceed? A, suggests starting the project over to develop a brand new concept. B, suggests that the client submit the current drawings to the AHJ to maintain the schedule. C, decline to work on the project. Or D, request a copyright released from the original designer. So sort of a classic situation. Client wants this project filed ASAP because a permit's on the critical path. They want to get the foundation started before cold weather comes in the winter and pouring concrete becomes a little more challenging and complicated. Also, excavation becomes complicated in the winter. So you're in a time crunch, you want to help this client out, and you've got to look at what we can do. So the key to a question like this is we need to do our best to serve the client, but we still need to take into consideration our professional, ethical, and sort of legal considerations so that we are acting within our standard of care. So let's take a look at these choices. Choice A suggests starting the project over to develop a brand new concept. Probably seems like a good idea. I think you know, as an architect, you're going to be inclined to want to go through your full design process with somebody and really design something that answers all of their needs. Whereas this situation here, they're coming to you with sort of a plan that they kind of like and they want some modifications made to it. I get it. Architects want to understand why they want to make those changes, maybe propose some other ideas, maybe propose starting over. It's probably not the best way to serve this particular client, right? They seem to be on a tight schedule. They've got an idea of what they want, so suggesting to start over doesn't seem to be what they want to do. And likely, if you suggest this, they probably just won't hire you. They'll probably hire somebody else. So I think it's probably not the best business decision to make in this situation. And I think that's a lot of what the practice management division is about, making the correct business decision. And I don't think A is correct here. B, suggest that the client submit the current drawings to the AHJ to maintain the schedule. So looking at the question here, we've got an idea for the floor plan. The client wants to add an addition to it. So this choice is suggesting that, why don't we just forget about the addition for now? We'll submit the drawings as they are, and we'll design that addition later. Maybe that could work in some situations. I don't think it's the best idea, and I think it's just better from a professional standpoint to file a project that's complete and that's what you intend to build, as opposed to sort of filing whatever and realizing that you can change it later. I think that's not a great methodology, although it happens. The other issue with this one is that since the client wants to include a small addition, and they want to ideally get this permitted before the winter starts, you need to design the foundation for that addition so that it can be poured and then to maintain the schedule anyway. So this solution doesn't really work given what the client is looking for. So I think if you can sort of read through what the actual scope of work is and what the choice is suggesting, you'll realize that B isn't going to really get the client what they want. It might seem like it does, but it's not going to. Choice C, decline to work on the project. I think in reality, that's a possibility. Maybe you just don't want to work on this project. It realistically might be what I would do in this situation, but it's usually not the correct answer on the ARE, right? The ARE is testing all people that want to be architects and seeing if they can provide professional services to the general public in a responsible way, right? So if the correct answer to this was that every architect should decline this project, then this person can't be served by the architectural community, and that's not a good. That's not great. How is the person going to get their dream realized? So declining to work on the project is usually not the right answer in my experience. There's probably some way you can help this client, and the ARE wants to test if you understand what the best way to help this person would be. So with that, I would probably not choose choice C. And then looking at choice D, request a copyright release from the original designer. So this question is talking about our potential client bought a plan online. They want to make some modifications to it. What you're expected to realize here is that plan was done by some sort of a professional that owns the copyright to that design. You can't just take a screenshot of the plan and redraw it and call it your own. That would be copyright infringement, right? So if you're ever going to do work like this where the client has started a project in whatever fashion it is, whether that's they bought the plans online or they started with another architect, and you're asked to make some changes to something, you need to get a copyright release from the original designer that the owner or the potential client needs to get for you, so that you are given permission to continue to work on this project from the original designer who owns the copyright. So and a lot of clients don't understand that part. They think if they paid for it, it's their property now. It's their, they can do what they want with these documents, but that's not the case. The intellectual property of it belongs to the original designer in this case. So with that said, choice D is the correct answer here. Request a copyright release from the original designer and really from the owner.
Let's roll back to question number 2, actually. We just have one on why one answer is incorrect, but can you clarify why answer E, hourly rate for construction contract administration, is incorrect?
Yeah, so I would say in general, when you're thinking about what type of a fee structure should I use for a specific portion of the work, hourly rate is only going to be correct if the scope of the work is so unclear that you can't possibly figure out how long it would take you to do it. So I think it's correct for the entitlement process because it would be very hard for you to figure out how long and how many revisions you might need to make there, right? For the construction contract administration, we're given in the question that it's a 24-month construction schedule. We can include that in our contract with the owner that, hey, our fixed fee for construction contract administration is, let's say, $40,000, and that's based on a 24-month construction schedule. So if construction goes over that, we're going to renegotiate an additional fee. So charging hourly is just, clients don't like it because they have no sense of how long something will take. I mean, I think from a professional standpoint, charging hourly makes a lot of sense because you get paid for every hour that you work, right? But we need to use it judiciously and only when it's necessary so that we can help our clients have an understanding of the total cost.
Great, works with me. With that, it doesn't look like we have any more questions for number 3 or 2, so let's go to question number 4.
The contractor for a new construction industrial building has fallen behind the construction schedule. The owner is concerned that the contractor doesn't have a plan to get back on track and asks the architect to assist in any way that they can so the project can be completed by the originally scheduled date. The owner is open to pay the architect for additional services if they feel that the service can get the project schedule corrected. What can the architect suggest to the owner to help get the project back on track? A, daily site visits and field reports from the architect to keep the owner informed of progress. B, construction scheduling services to determine the critical path. C, prioritization of submittals and RFIs as directed by the contractor, or D, a means and methods review by the architect to determine alternate construction sequences. So another common scenario, and this is the question that I was talking about earlier that could be a project management question, right? This is a question about managing a project in reality, but these types of questions do show up on the practice management exam, because what could happen is a project manager in your firm is approached with this situation, and they come to you as the firm owner or principal at the firm, and they ask what should they do. So that's why these types of questions are included on both of the exams. It's a common scenario. The owner is frustrated, they don't know what to do. The first place they look is the architect for help, because the architect is has a duty to the architect on the project. They hired you, and they're looking for you for some answers. You've got experience, and they want to see how you can help. I think as architects, we want to be as helpful as we can be. We want to see the project succeed. We've been working on it probably for a couple of years by the time it's in construction, and we want to get it over the finish line, right? So we want to be helpful, but it's important, and what the test is really testing you on is you have to consider your contractual duties. You have to toe the line between your responsibilities and getting into the contractor's responsibilities, their means and methods and their schedule. So you need to be careful not to cross that line, because it can have some legal implications possibly. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the choices here. So daily site visits and field reports to keep the owner informed of the progress. If you read through the B101, it's going to talk about the architect making site observations as necessary based on the progress of construction, right? It's kind of like a fluffy language about how often the architect is going to do that. And that's important, because whenever you start to say the architect's going to make daily or weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is observations, now the architect is coming to the site on sort of a regular cadence, and that could be construed down the line as the architect getting involved in construction means and methods. They're kind of like boots on the ground in the construction process, and that's maybe not a good place to be as the architect. You're evaluating the construction for conformance with the documents. You're going to do that as necessary based on the progress of construction, and not in some sort of a regular cadence. So I think that's why this is incorrect. The other thing is that doing site visits and field reports to keep the owner informed of the progress, how is that really going to help get the project back on track? It's going to just let the owner know what's going wrong every day, I suppose, but it's not really going to solve any issues, in my opinion. So I think for those two reasons, A is going to be incorrect. Choice B, construction scheduling services to determine the critical path. Well, I think this would definitely be getting into the contractor's responsibilities. The contractor is solely responsible for the schedule, and construction means and methods. But so if we start doing our own schedule now, I think we sort of take a lot of responsibility and liability for the schedule, right? And we don't have that expertise that the contractor is bringing to the table about sequencing and when things should be done and how long they should take and when people are available. So it would be hard for us to do well as architects, and it's really just getting into the contractor's responsibilities. If they haven't determined the critical path by this point, we can maybe suggest to the owner that they should identify the critical path. That would help. But doing a schedule on our own is not going to be a good idea. Choice C, prioritization of submittals and RFIs as directed by the contractor. I don't see any reason why this could be a bad idea. This is the whole idea of the contractor giving us a submittal schedule at the beginning of the project, is to outline when they want us to review things by. So they're prioritizing submittals for us. And if there's 10 RFIs that are submitted and a couple are more pressing than some other ones, them letting us know, hey, we would appreciate a response to these few RFIs before you look at the other ones is perfectly reasonable. They're helping us prioritize information in the order that it's needed on site. So this is a good example of an option where we are staying within our lane here. We're working with the contractor to get things back on track. They're still taking the lead. They're directing us about what's critical. but we're giving responses in a timely manner. That's a good way to be a team player here and get the project back on track. So I would say that's the correct answer. And then choice D, a means and methods review by the architect for the purpose of finding alternate construction sequences. Very similar to B, for why it's incorrect is that we're just getting into the contractor's responsibility for means and methods. We're not experts on construction sequencing. We're architects are generalists, so we know something about construction sequencing, right? But we don't do construction for a living all day, every day. That's really what the contractor brings to the table. So we don't want to start telling them, install this first and then do this and that and do this on Saturday. We don't want to get into that because when things go wrong based on our recommendations, fingers are going to point at us. So important to stay out of means and methods, and anytime you sort of see a choice that's suggesting that we get involved in that, I would say it's going to be incorrect. So summarize here, stay in your lane as the architect, understand what your contractual responsibilities are and aren't, and stay in that lane even under pressure of the project's behind and you want to help.
Awesome, thanks, Chris. Got a question kind of about how to approach, let's just go PJM and PCMs because they're kind of similar in points. Would you recommend studying for both PJM and PCM before taking either of the exams, or studying for one, taking that one, studying for the next one, taking that next one?
Yeah, I think some people might want to go with that approach, and it's kind of an information overload, maybe like you're studying a lot. I think that, in my opinion, PCM is the most studyable of the exams, right? I recommend taking it first to a lot of people, and the reason for that is you'll read through the contracts, which are foundational really to every ARE exam. You should know your contracts, so learn about those first and internalize that information. And then another reason I think you should take it first is that you're not going to get experience managing a firm as an ARE candidate, as a non-licensed architect, because you're not going to manage a firm as a non-licensed architect. So why don't I just study and take this exam first that I have to study the most for, that I'm not going to get that on-the-job experience and aid my studying that way. Let me take it first. So that's my recommendation. Then I would study for project management and take that exam second, and group those two together. Another benefit of that is you might gain some on-the-job experience managing a project, or maybe if you're not even managing it, just watch how the project managers in your office do their job. Observe them, ask them questions, and you'll gain some experience while studying for PCM that'll help you in the PJM exam. So that's my takeaway. I caution against grouping the exams together and trying to take them all at the same time. That can also be pretty stressful. I couldn't personally imagine taking like PCM on Monday and PJM on Tuesday. I think I'd be a little burnt out for the PJM exam. I like taking them one at a time, but grouping them together so that I'm building on knowledge.
Great, thanks, Chris. Looks like we've got another question for number 4, but if you want to review any of these questions while we're going through, this will have the recording available on YouTube and then also as a podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify too. That'll be there later today too, and you'll also receive an email with it, with all the links for that as well too, if you want to review any of these questions later. But Chris, can you clarify the difference between B and C and why the other one is better for number 4?
For number 4, okay, so choice B is talking about the architect providing construction scheduling services, right? We're already in construction, so maybe the architect, if they have a really competent construction manager type person on their staff, maybe they could offer this type of a service like before the project starts and suggest a construction schedule. But I don't think it's a good idea to jump in during the middle of construction and try to right this ship and fix the schedule when the contractor owns that schedule. They need to figure out what needs to happen to get this project on track. Essentially, they owe the owner the project by a certain date. Their current progress is not meeting that date, and they need to figure out how to get the project back on track. If you provide a schedule now as the architect, you're kind of getting involved in their problem. I don't know why I wouldn't want to do that. However, I do want to be helpful. So choice C is a way for me to be helpful without sort of getting myself entangled in the problem. So choice C lets me help them out by staying within my contractual duties. I have to respond, I have to review submittals, I have to respond to RFIs. I'm just agreeing to do that sort of in an order that's driven by the contractor's needs. So basically, if the contractor has a few submittals out there, let's say they've submitted some concrete submittals and also some submittals about light fixtures, right? Well, the contractor can tell me, hey, I'm trying to pour concrete next week. Why don't you review that one first? And then the light fixtures, we have some time to buy those, not as critical. So they're just sort of helping me prioritize my reviews.
Thanks, Chris. And then one more thing about the studying for PCM and PJM together too. We had 2 members reach out with their experience. We had Bailey that's studying for both of them, PCM and PJM together, and they were actually taking both their exams this weekend. So once again, yes, fingers crossed and wishing you the best. Please let us know how you do after that, and good luck to that. And then we also have Mike, who took PCM first, didn't end up passing that, but then studied for PJM and passed that. The PCM actually helped them study for the PJM, but from their experience, they would study for one at a time. So we have experiences all over the place, but I hope these recommendations help you out, Dave. And with that, let's roll on to question number 5.
All right, an architect designed a successful townhome development for a local builder who now wants to build a similar project in a nearby town. The builder asked the architect if they can purchase the plans from the architect and be allowed to build the design at this location and in any new location where they find suitable land. The builder notes that it will be a great marketing opportunity for the architect and that they'll place the architect's sign next to theirs at the entrance to any new subdivision. How should the architect proceed? A, negotiate a per-use fee with the builder. B, grant the builder an unlimited use license in exchange for a release of any liability. C, decline the request. Or D, grant the builder a one-time reuse license for this new development. So this question revolves around understanding intellectual property and who owns the rights to the design, and also understanding maybe some good business sense about how you can monetize your intellectual property, right? And how you should monetize your intellectual property. So let's take a look at these choices. A, negotiating a per use fee with the builder. That's going to be the best thing that you can do in this type of a situation. So what's happening here is you've designed a project that the builder really liked. It was well received. The builder wants to just recycle that design. It worked well. People liked it. They bought it quickly. Recycle that design and use it in whatever location they find that they think would be suitable to that design. So sounds like a good idea, but you as the architect, you own the copyright, and it's your intellectual property, that design, right? And some clients and builders don't understand this, so you might need to educate them a little bit. But because you own the intellectual property, you should be given a fee to every time this project is built. And you know, the builder is going to make money every single time they rebuild this project. So you should make some more money as well. It probably won't be the same amount. You're not redesigning it from scratch, but there are going to be some things that need to happen. You're going to need to consider the size of the lots and maybe the topography, the orientation. You're going to have some work to do to make this building work on whatever site is chosen, and you're going to need to stamp the drawings, get them through a permit review, and you're taking on some liability for doing that. So there's a good reason that you should be paid every time the project gets built, and not just a one-time fee for designing the project. So that's the best answer here. I'll go through why some of these other choices are not good ideas. B, granting the builder an unlimited use license in exchange for a release of liability. So this like relieves you of some liability, I suppose, from all of these new projects. I mean, some states won't accept this sort of a release of liability from a non-professional granting it to a professional. So there's that to consider based on your specific state. But it doesn't monetize anything for you, and it just lets the builder make money on your design sort of in an unlimited fashion, while you only get paid once to design it, and that's not good. That's not good business practice, and you know, you worked hard on it, you should be compensated. So I think those are the reasons why B is incorrect. C, declining the request outright, like I said earlier, just generally not the right answer on the ARE, and maybe not in real life either. There's probably something that can be worked out here where that works for both parties, some sort of win-win solution that could be found. That's better than just saying no, absolutely not. We're going to need to design this from scratch every time. So that's why C is incorrect. And then D, granting the builder a one-time reuse license for the new development, sort of an in-between answer. It's sort of saying, okay, I'll let you do it this time for no fee, but then maybe in the future, we'll have to work something out. It's just not setting good precedent. I mean, it might think that this is a good idea if you're enticed by the whole marketing opportunity that they're suggesting exists and placing your sign at the entrance. You might think this could be a good idea, but it's not good to give anything away for free. And granting the one-time reuse license just kind of sets yourself up for the next time the builder wants to do this. They're probably going to ask you for the same thing. So really, this question boils down to understanding who owns the copyright to this design work, right? Understanding the business situation here and getting yourself and your firm paid, both for the intellectual work that you did and also for the fact that you're taking on some liability every time the project's built.
Thanks, Chris. Looks like I have one last question for this number 5. Can you explain, when did the reuse license ultimately have a fee attached?
Exactly. Yeah, the reuse license would have a fee attached to it. So let's say you charged, I don't know, $100,000 for this first townhome development. If it's going to be reused in several other locations, maybe it's a fraction of that. Maybe it's $25,000. I'm not sure. You'd have to look at what makes sense in the given situation, but it's some fraction of the original design fee. You're doing less work, so that is fair, but you're still being compensated for the work and the thought that went into creating this design that was so well received that the builder wants to build it again.
Gotcha. And then for this also, when would it be a situation when we would do C, decline the request?
I think if the builder was unopen at all to any sort of fee, or if they were unopen to like a reasonable fee that didn't make sense to you, then you could ultimately decline the request. But A is saying to negotiate a per use fee with the builder and sort of makes the assumption that through negotiation, you'll come to some sort of agreeable fee. At any rate, A should be the first step. And then, if in my previous example, their proposed reuse fee was like $1,000, that's probably not acceptable. And if they were unwilling to move off that, I'd probably decline the request.
Gotcha. Looks like that's all we have for today. Chris, it's been such a pleasure to have you today, and thanks so much for helping to support the architecture community.
Yeah, thank you. I had a great time doing it. And if any other questions come in after this episode, I'm happy to answer them on our community. So just tag me at Coach Chris Hopstock.
If you're joining us for the first time, Black Spectacles is a leader in ARE prep. At Black Spectacles, we work with learning scientists and architects to ensure you're studying the right content and that you retain it so you can pass on the first try. And we're very excited to announce the launch of a brand new CSE course designed to help you pass the California supplemental exam in record time. You'll get everything you need to pass the CSE on your first try, including expert crafted California specific study materials, a practice exam that is as close to the real thing as you can get, customizable flashcards and quizzes, and a structured study plan customized to your exam date. You can join today at blackspectacles.com/CSE-pricing to take advantage of a 30% discount for Black Friday month, which ends on November 30th. And if you're using Black Spectacles through your firm, be sure to let your firm leadership know so they can unlock access for your entire team. Over on our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook social channels, we post mock exam questions daily. So if you don't already follow us, I suggest that you do. We're at black.spectacles on Instagram and TikTok, and just Black Spectacles on Facebook. And our next ARE Live will be on December 17th, where we'll be covering a PPD mock exam. You can go to blackspectacles.com/podcast to sign up. And we offer a referral program for firms and schools where if you introduce us to your boss or HR, and if they sign up, we'll give you a $250 gift card of your choice. To participate, follow the instructions on blackspectacles.com/group-referral. And we also offer a refer a friend program where you can sign up to receive a customized discount code to save your friend 15% off any membership. And you'll receive a $50 gift card of your choice when they redeem. You can go to blackspectacles.com/referral to participate. And congratulations to Dave Mendelson. You posted on our Black Spectacles community today, and you just won a free Black Spectacles t-shirt. I'll reach out to you via email to get your size and shipping information, so we'll be in touch soon. And just a reminder, if you'd like to be eligible to win a free Black Spectacles t-shirt, all you have to do is post a question you have during our featured topic in our community during our next ARE Live. And our community is always active, not just during ARE Live. So go ahead and poke around and see what your peers are up to and asking about. And as a thank you for coming, we'd like to offer you a 30% discount on new or upgraded memberships, with the discount automatically applied at checkout, which is valid until November 30th. You can go to blackspectacles.com/pricing to take advantage of our Black Friday month offer. And be sure to take our survey, which you'll find in your email right after this episode, and share any suggestions you may have. I promise we read every word that you write and use them to tune our next episodes. Thanks for tuning in.